Welcome to my official 2024 12-team playoff predictions for college football. In this video, I will be predicting the entire playoff bracket and giving my prediction to win the 2025 National Championship. But before we predict these games, let's go through all of the teams I have in this playoff. And for the 1 seed, I do have Georgia. I have Georgia winning the SEC in 2024. I think Georgia is going to be on a mission this season after what happened last season. They lost the SEC championship last season and they missed out on the playoffs because of that one loss to Bama. I think Georgia was a top 4 college football team last season, and they returned 15 starters from last season. That includes one of the best quarterbacks in the country, Carson Beck. I know I can trust Kirby Smart as a head coach, and I think Georgia is absolutely the safe bet to win the SEC in 2024, and I have them getting that 1 seed. As the 2 seed, I have Ohio State. I actually have Ohio State losing to Oregon in the regular season, but I think Ohio State wins the rematch against them in the Big Ten championship game. Ohio State returns 9 starters defensively, and they added Caleb Downs, who was one of the top safeties in the country. Ohio State has the most star-studded backfield in the country with Henderson and Judkins, and they have great weapons at wide receiver. The O-line should take a step forward, and I expect Will Howard to be an upgrade at quarterback. Will Howard has the experience, and he's also effective with his legs, and Kyle McCord wasn't. Chip Kelly will be the new offensive coordinator, and he will be calling the plays. I like this Ohio State team to win the Big Ten in 2024, and I have them as the 2 seed. As the 3 seed, I have Florida State. They are my pick to win the ACC in 2024, which means they will get one of the top 4 spots in the playoff in a first-round bye. Florida State might rank 83rd in the country for returning production, but they have a bunch of guys defensively, and I trust Mike Norvell to keep this team on top of the ACC. Mike Norvell did his thing in the portal, and they have brought in one of the top classes in the nation. I think DJU could take a big step forward at quarterback under Mike Norvell. I have Florida State winning the ACC and securing a first-round bye in the expanded playoff. I have Kansas State as the 4 seed. I think Kansas State will be the last team to get a first-round bye. I like this Kansas State team to win the Big 12 just like they did in 2022. Chris Kleiman has kept this team consistently good in recent memory. The defense was strong last season, and they have 7 starters back defensively. They have a potential star at quarterback in Avery Johnson, and the backfield should be one of the best in the conference with DJ Giddens and the transfer Dylan Edwards. I also like Utah, but I still think Utah has questions offensively, and I don't know if they get the job done in 2024. Oklahoma State is a real contender, but they also have been a very streaky team, and I don't think they make the Big 12 championship again. The Big 12 is wide open, but I trust Kansas State the most now that Texas and Oklahoma are both gone. I think Kansas State wins the Big 12 in 2024, and I have them securing the final first-round bye in the playoff. But let's reveal the at-large bids for this expanded playoff, because the playoff does not stop at 4 teams anymore. This thing has expanded to 12 teams. And as the 5 seed, I have Texas. And I actually do have Texas missing out on the SEC championship game, but I do have Texas going 11-1 in the regular season. And they would be the only one-loss SEC team left other than Georgia. I have another team making the SEC championship game over Texas, but I have that team losing to Georgia, which puts that team at 2 losses after the loss in the SEC championship. And I will get to that team in a minute, but at 5 I have Texas, and I think they are ready to compete at the top of the SEC in 2024. They returned Quinn Ewers at quarterback, and they added one of the top portal classes in the country. They lost some weapons at receiver, but Isaiah Bond, Silas Bolden, and Matthew Golden are huge additions at wide receiver, and they added one of the best edge rushers in the country, Trey Moore, defensively. Don't get me wrong, there are questions defensively, but I think this offense will be elite, and the defense will be good enough to get them in the expanded playoff. I have Oregon as the 6th seed. I do have Oregon losing to Ohio State in the 2024 Big Ten championship game, which puts them at 2 losses, but that absolutely gets Oregon in the expanded playoff. Oregon has key guys back in the front 7 defensively. Jeffrey Bossa and Jordan Birch both return, and they added some of the top cornerbacks out of the portal. The defense should be even better than it was last season, and offensively they have great firepower. They add one of the best quarterbacks in college football, Dylan Gabriel, to the roster, and they have 5-star wide receiver Evan Stewart joining the team. Oregon will be one of the top teams in the country, and Dan Lanning is building something incredible at Oregon. Oregon is legit, and I have them as a 6th seed making the expanded playoff. I have Ole Miss as the 7th seed. Ole Miss is the other team I was talking about that I had making the SEC championship game, but I have them losing to Georgia and having 2 losses on the season. I think Ole Miss is legit and they will be one of the top teams in the country. The defense has massive potential with the new additions of Walter Nolan and Princely U up front, and they brought in the #1 transfer portal class in the country. They returned 13 starters, including star quarterback Jackson Dart and wide receiver Trey Harris. Last season, their only two losses were to Alabama and Georgia. If they take a step forward defensively, they will be in every game, and I truly believe that. I have Notre Dame as the 8 seed, and I have Notre Dame losing to Texas A&M to open the season, but I think Notre Dame wins every other game on the schedule, and I think they will get in the expanded playoff right behind the Big Ten and SEC runner-ups. Notre Dame has a favorable 2024 schedule, and I think they are likely to take a step forward and make the expanded playoff. They return guys defensively, and they have one of the top secondaries in the country. They also have a strong front seven, and they added the addition of RJ Oben, who was a huge disruptor on the edge for Duke last season. If they take the right step forward offensively, they will be a very good team. They add Riley Leonard at quarterback, and I believe he will be an upgrade from Sam Hartman as long as he stays healthy. They also hired the offensive coordinator from LSU, Mike Denbrock. That was a very big hire for Notre Dame because Mike Denbrock led the #1 offense in the country last season that had Heisman Trophy winner Jaden Daniels at quarterback. Notre Dame added solid weapons at wide receiver through the portal, and they have a young star at running back in Jeremiah Love. I like Notre Dame to make the expanded playoff in 2024. I have Tennessee as the 9 seed, and I have Tennessee going 10-2 in the regular season, and I think they get one of the at-large bids in the expanded playoff. I think the defense is absolutely on the rise, and they have one of the top defensive players in the country, James Pierce Jr., back. They have Nico Iamaleava at quarterback, who has one of the highest ceilings in college football at the quarterback position. Tennessee struggled in the passing game last season, but I think Nico Iamaleava will be good enough to help the offense take a step forward and get them closer to what they were in 2022 when they had the #1 scoring offense in the country. They have a solid offensive line and should have a great rushing attack with Dylan Sampson. I like Josh Heupel in Tennessee, and I have them getting the 9 seed in the expanded playoff. I have Alabama as the 10 seed. I think Alabama will be another two-loss team in the expanded playoff from the SEC. I have Tennessee beating Alabama in the regular season, so if any of you were wondering, that's why I have Bama behind Tennessee. But regardless, Alabama getting a spot in the expanded playoff is scary for the other 11 teams in this thing. Kalen DeBoer is doing everything right so far at Alabama. They have a top 5 transfer portal class, and right now they have the #2 2025 recruiting class. He's done a great job at acquiring talent, and they have Jalen Milroe back at quarterback. I'm telling you, if Jalen Milroe develops a consistent passing game, he is a Heisman Trophy winner. And I think Kalen DeBoer leads Alabama to the expanded playoff in his first year there. And to no surprise, as the 11th seed, I have Penn State. I think they will absolutely get in the playoff. And I have them getting the last at-large bid in this expanded playoff. And I have them going 10-2 in the regular season once again, to no surprise. Penn State has a favorable schedule though, and they will have one of the top defenses in the country. They hired the offensive coordinator from Kansas, which could be a huge hire. They have Drew Alleback at quarterback, and they have one of the top 1-2 punches in college football, with both Katron Allen and Nick Singleton back. They do have questions offensively. I think everybody is aware of that because they don't have great options at wide receiver, and they lost their top wide receiver, Keandre Lambert-Smith. But the 5-star transfer, Julian Fleming, should be good. And I do think Penn State should be one of the top teams in the Big Ten, and I expect them to make the expanded playoff. And as the last team in this playoff, I have Boise State getting the 12th seed. A Group of 5 team is guaranteed a spot in the playoffs, let's not forget that. And I think Boise State will be that Group of 5 team to get that final spot. They quickly turned their season around last year, and they won the Mountain West after promoting the DC Spencer Danielson to head coach. They added former 5-star quarterback Malachi Nelson out of the portal, and they have great upside defensively. They also returned one of the best running backs in the country, Ashton Jeanty. Boise State has a game early in the season at Oregon that will be a huge game for them. And a loss in that game won't really hurt them. Honestly, it just builds their resume. But if they somehow keep that game close, that would make a huge statement to the committee. I like this Boise State team with Spencer Danielson, and I think that they make the expanded playoff in 2024. But now that we have revealed the teams in this expanded playoff, I'm going to give a brief breakdown of every single game, and I'm going to give my prediction for every game. Now let's start off with the first round game between #8 Notre Dame and #9 Tennessee. I have Notre Dame hosting a home playoff game against Tennessee. That's another thing that makes this playoff very interesting because we will get first round home playoff games, and that's going to be crazy to see because there's going to be a lot of stakes in these games, and they're going to be on-campus site games, which is insane. I do think Notre Dame's secondary can slow down that Tennessee passing attack, and I like Notre Dame to win a huge playoff game at home. I have Notre Dame winning the game 31-27. That would be a huge statement win for Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame, and it would show that the trajectory of Notre Dame football is pointing up with head coach Marcus Freeman. The other first round matchup is number 5 Texas versus number 12 Boise State. Boise State might find some success running the ball in this game with Ashton Jeanty. Texas lost their 2 top defensive tackles from last season to the NFL, and their defensive line might take a step back. But Texas is going to be completely fine. Even if the defensive line takes a step back, I expect the secondary to take a step forward, and the front seven should be solid, definitely with the addition of Trey Moore. I do think Texas wins this game pretty comfortably. I have them winning it 41-20. The other first round matchup is number 7 Ole Miss versus number 10 Alabama. I really like this Ole Miss team, and it's going to be huge for them to host a playoff game. But I do think Kalen DeBoer and Alabama will be focused in the postseason. Jalen Milroe and that offense will be rolling, and I think they take advantage of a questionable Ole Miss secondary. This game should be a shootout, but I trust Kalen DeBoer in big playoff games more than I do Lane Kiffin, and I think Alabama wins this game 34-27. And the final first round game is number 6 Oregon versus number 11 Penn State. This game doesn't happen in the 2024 regular season, but I do think they meet in the postseason with Oregon hosting the game at home. Autzen Stadium will be packed for this game, and I think Penn State's lack of explosiveness on offense keeps them from winning this game. Oregon's offense will be rolling, and Penn State's offense has struggled against teams with good pass rushes over the years, and Oregon should have a very good pass rush. I think Oregon controls this game for the most part, and I think they win it at home 31-20. Now we move to the quarterfinals, and we have number 1 Georgia versus number 8 Notre Dame. I like this Notre Dame team, but I don't think they have the talent to match up with this Georgia team. Notre Dame's defense could keep them in the game for a while, but I think Carson Beck and that offense gets going late in the second half. I think Georgia wins this game by 2 scores, 34-20. Another second round matchup is number 4 Kansas State versus number 5 Texas. Kansas State nearly beat Texas last season, and I do think Kansas State could compete in this game. Texas lost their running back CJ Baxter to injury, and I don't know if they have great depth at running back, and they might struggle a bit against Kansas State because Kansas State has a very solid front seven. I am pretty high on Kansas State, and I do think that they keep this game close, but Texas has the quarterback and a very talented offense, and that should be enough to win this game for them. I do have Texas beating Kansas State 33-30. The next second round matchup is number 2 Ohio State versus number 10 Alabama. It's going to be a battle between a great offense led by Kalen DeBoer and an Ohio State defense with everybody back, including the addition of former Alabama safety Caleb Downs. I think Ohio State's elite secondary can contain that Alabama passing game, and I have some questions with Alabama defensively. I like Ohio State to beat Alabama 34-24. And the final second round matchup is number 3 Florida State versus number 6 Oregon. I think Florida State could have a realistic shot in this game. If Florida State's defense plays a great game, they could battle in this game. I think Florida State has a very underrated defense heading into 2024. It could possibly be a top 10 defense in the country. But I do think Dan Lanning and Oregon have a bit more offensive firepower, and that defense should be able to stop that Florida State offense. Oregon's defense has experience playing against quarterback DJ Uiagalelei, and Oregon's pass rush should get to Florida State. This is a decent test for Oregon, but I think Oregon wins this game 31-23. And now we move on to the semifinals. So which team is going to move on to the national championship game between number 1 Georgia and number 5 Texas? I think Texas having to play an extra playoff game is going to play a huge factor in this game. And I think Georgia will honestly just be the more physical team than Texas. Georgia's defense will slow down Texas, and they should really contain the Russian attack. Georgia has a bit more depth than Texas, and I trust Kirby Smart to have a game plan ready, and Texas will be coming off a slugfest against Kansas State. I like Georgia to win this game by 2 scores actually, and I think they win a higher scoring game 41-28. And the other semifinal matchup is number 2 Ohio State versus number 6 Oregon. This is a big toss-up game for me. I have Oregon winning the regular season matchup, but Ohio State winning the Big Ten championship game. So already I have them going 1-1 against each other, and this would be their third matchup on the season. But I think there's too much pressure on Ryan Day and Ohio State, and I think Ohio State's roster is just so incredibly talented. I think Oregon falls a little bit short to Ohio State again. Oregon has an elite roster, but I think the lack of depth at defensive tackle is a bit of a concern. Oregon plays an extra playoff game, and I think Ohio State finds great success running the ball, and the defense does enough to win this game. I think Ohio State wins this game 30-27. And my prediction for the 2025 National Championship game is 1 seed Georgia versus 2 seed Ohio State. And I think Kirby Smart gets it done and wins his third national championship at Georgia. I think these are the two most stacked rosters in college football, but I think Georgia has the better quarterback and the better coach, and that's going to be the difference maker in this big game. Carson Beck should take control of this game, and I think Georgia gets it done, and I have them winning the game 24-20 in a lower scoring game. So my prediction to win the 2025 National Championship is the Georgia Bulldogs. But you guys let me know, what does your 12-team playoff look like down in the comments below? Who are you picking to win the national championship next season? I've been very hyped to make this video, so I'm glad I finally got this video posted for you guys. But anyways, that is going to do it for today's video. Let me remind you guys to like the video and also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, then you will love this channel because we upload a ton of college football content and we basically cover everything on this channel. So definitely consider subscribing. And also consider checking out my socials down in the description below. But that is going to do it, guys, and peace out.